In the quietude of this moment, as evening light surrenders to the gentle embrace of night, we gather in the sacred space between waking and sleeping, between knowing and unknowing. Like lotus petals closing at dusk, we turn inward, seeking not answers, but the peace that dwells beyond all questions, before we begin this gentle journey together. If these calming wisdom stories bring solace to your heart, feel free to subscribe to our sanctuary of stillness. Offer a gentle, like as you would place a flower on an altar, and softly share in the comments where in the world you're listening. From tonight, your presence here creates a sangha, a community of souls seeking the same tender peace. Picture, if you will, cherry blossoms drifting on an evening breeze, each petal a prayer released into the vast unknown. Somewhere in an ancient forest, a monk walks the winding path between towering pines, his footsteps silent as falling snow. The air is perfumed with sandalwood incense, curling upward like whispered sutras, dissolving into the infinite sky. This is our beginning, not a destination to reach, but a homecoming to the stillness that has always been waiting within. Tonight, we embark upon a pilgrimage not of miles, but of moments. Not seeking to acquire wisdom, but to remember what we have never truly forgotten. In the Buddha's gentle words, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. And so we turn inward, like rivers returning to the sea, ready to discover what has always been there, patient as moonlight, constant as breath. Let your shoulders soften like morning mist. Let your breath become as natural as waves meeting shore. We begin now, in this precious present moment, where all true journeys start and end. Asterisk. Asterisk, what is the sound of peace before the first thought arises? In the tender moments between sleep and waking, between one breath and the next, there exists a profound silence that knows itself. It is not empty, this silence, but full pregnant with all possibilities, vast as the night sky that holds both star and void in perfect embrace. Ancient masters spoke of this mystery in riddles, knowing that truth cannot be grasped by the thinking mind alone. If a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it make a sound? But perhaps the deeper question whispers, if a heart opens in the darkness and no one witnesses it, has enlightenment occurred? In a monastery high in the mountains of Vim, Tibet, where the air is thin and pure as crystal, an old lama once asked his student, "Show me your original face, the one you had before your parents were born." The young monk sat in meditation for days, weeks, months, searching through memories, through concepts, through every corner of his mind, until one morning, as snow began to fall like blessed silence, he simply looked up at his teacher and smiled. Nothing was said. Nothing needed to be said. The master smiled back, and in that exchange, the question dissolved like salt in water. What remains when we let go of everything we think we know? When we release our grip on past and future, on success and failure, on the very idea of who we are supposed to be? Like a bird that discovers it has always had wings, we find ourselves held by something far greater than our small sense of self. Consider the bamboo that bends in the storm, flexible yet unbroken. The river that flows around stones, finding its way without force or struggle. The moon that waxes and wanes, yet remains unchanged in its essence. These are our teachers, showing us the way of wu-wei effortless action, the dance of being that moves with life rather than against it. In this moment, as night deepens around us like a gentle blessing, we ask not for answers, but for the grace to rest in the question itself. For it is in the not knowing that wisdom is born. In the silence between words, the truth speaks most clearly. What arises when we stop trying to understand and simply allow ourselves to be? The Persian poet Rumi whispered across the centuries, "Sell your cleverness and buy bewilderment." Tonight, we make this sacred trade, releasing the burden of knowing and opening to the mystery that lives in the space between one heartbeat and the next. The Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree 2,500 years ago, and yet his realization touches this very moment, this very breath you draw now. Time, the masters tell us, is but a story we tell ourselves. A river that seems to flow, but in truth is always completely present. Always exactly here. In the Dhammapada, those verses of truth that have echoed through countless generations, we find these words: all that we are is the result of what we have thought. If one speaks or acts with a pure mind, happiness follows as surely as one's shadow. But what does it mean to have a pure mind in our complex, often chaotic modern world? Picture a still mountain lake at dawn, its surface so undisturbed that it perfectly reflects the sky, the clouds, the surrounding peaks. This is the nature of original mind, not empty, but clear, not absent of thought, but unclouded by attachment to thought. Like the lake that reflects all things but clings to none, the awakened heart experiences fully while remaining free. The teaching of impermanence, Anicca, whispers to us through every falling leaf, every breath that comes and goes, every emotion that arises and passes away like weather across the sky of consciousness. Your worries, your joys, your very sense of self-all, arising and dissolving in the vast space of awareness like clouds in an endless sky. But this is not cause for sorrow. Dear friend, the flowers do not mourn their falling petals. The seasons do not resist their eternal dance. In embracing impermanence, we discover the deathless essence that watches all change, untouched by time's passing. The Four Noble Truths arise not as commandments, but as gentle observations, as natural as noting that water flows downhill. Suffering exists, yes, we know this intimately. It arises from our grasping, our insistence that things be other than they are. Yet there is a way beyond suffering, and that way is as near as your next conscious breath. Right mindfulness, samasati, is not a technique to be mastered, but a remembering of what you already are. Like the sun that needs no effort to shine, awareness needs no effort to be aware. In this moment, as you listen to these words, something is already awake, already present, already at peace. Can you feel it? Not think it, but feel it, the witness. That watches all thoughts, all sensations, all experiences arise and pass away. The Zen master Huang Po taught, the foolish reject what they see, not what they think. The wise reject what they think, not what they see. Tonight, we practice this ancient wisdom, releasing our mental commentary and simply resting in the direct experience of this moment, the feeling of breath, the sensation of body relaxing, the sound of these words touching something deeper than mind. Asterisk, asterisk, in a monastery nestled in the mountains of ancient China, where a morning mist clung to pine branches like prayer flags of silk, there lived a monk named Wei Ming. His name meant bright understanding, though he himself insisted he understood nothing at all, which perhaps was why the other monks sought his counsel when their meditation cushions felt more like battlegrounds. Then centuries. Wei Ming had been at the monastery for 40 years, arriving as a young man fleeing the sorrow of a broken heart, carrying nothing but a torn robe and questions that burned like coals in his chest. The abbot, a man whose laughter was legendary throughout the valley, had taken one look at this earnest seeker and assigned him the most mundane of tasks, sweeping leaves. For 10 years, Wei Ming swept. In spring, he swept the tender green leaves that danced down like nature's confetti. In summer, he swept the broad leaves that provided shade and shelter. In autumn, he swept the brilliant reds and golds that painted the monastery grounds like a master's canvas. In winter, he swept snow from the pathways, making way for pilgrims who came seeking what he himself had not yet found. Master, Wei Ming finally asked the abbot one evening as they shared tea in the dying light, "When will I be ready for the profound teachings?" When will I learn the secret dharma that unlocks enlightenment? The old abbot sipped his tea slowly, his eyes twinkling, like stars reflecting in still water. My son, he said gently, what do you think you have been learning all these years? To sweep, Wei Ming replied, confused. Yes, the abbot nodded. And what else? Wei Ming considered this. In sweeping, he had learned patience, watching the same leaves fall day after day, season after season. He had learned impermanence, seeing how nothing stayed, how everything was always changing. He had learned presence, finding that when his mind wandered to regrets or worries, the broom moved less efficiently. The task became a burden rather than a meditation. I have learned, Wei Ming said slowly, that there is no difference between sweeping leaves and seeking Buddha. The abbot smiled, that legendary smile that had welcomed countless seekers. And now you know the secret dharma. But tell me, in all these years of sweeping, what have you been waiting for? That night, as Wei Ming performed his evening sweep, beneath a sky scattered with stars like enlightened thoughts across the mind of Buddha, something shifted. Not a great dramatic moment, but something gentle, like a flower opening to morning sun. He realized he had been waiting to become someone else, someone worthy of awakening, someone who deserved peace. But as the broom moved in its familiar rhythm, as the leaves gathered into neat piles that would scatter again by morning, he saw clearly there was no one else to become. The seeker and the sought were one. The path and the walker were one. The sweeper and the sweeping were one. Asterisk. From that night forward, though nothing outwardly changed, everything was different. Wei Ming still swept leaves, still shared tea with the abbot, still meditated in the pre-dawn darkness. But now he swept as Buddha sweeping, shared tea as Buddha, sharing, meditated as Buddha meditating. Not because he had become special, but because he had finally recognized what had always been true. Years later, when pilgrims asked Wei Ming for the secret teaching, he would smile that same gentle smile and hand them a broom. The Dharma, he would say, is right under your feet, but you have to be willing to sweep. And in the evening, when the work was done and the monastery settled into peaceful silence, Wei Ming would often be found sitting quietly on the temple steps, watching leaves fall in the moonlight, his heart vast as the night sky, at peace with the beautiful, endless impermanence of all things. Asterisk, asterisk, come now. Dear traveler of the inner way, let us turn our attention inward, like a river that finally remembers its source. With each breath you draw, imagine yourself stepping away from the busy marketplace of thoughts, away from the endless chatter of mind, into the silent temple that exists at the very center of your being. Feel your breath now, not as something you must control or perfect, but as the gentle rhythm of life itself expressing through you. Like waves meeting shore, each inhalation brings you home to this moment. Each exhalation releases what no longer serves. You are not breathing. Breath is breathing you, as it has breathed countless beings before you, as it will breathe countless beings yet to come. With each breath, you become the stillness between thoughts. Notice how thoughts arise like bubbles in champagne, sparkling into existence, dancing for a moment in the light of awareness, then dissolving back into the silence from which they came. You are not these thoughts, any more than the sky is the clouds that drift across its vast expanse. You are the space in which all experience unfolds, drifting now, floating into presence like a leaf settling onto still water. Feel how your body begins to remember its natural state of ease, each muscle group releasing its grip on tension, each joint softening into alignment with gravity's gentle embrace. Your shoulders drop like snow sliding from pine boughs. Your jaw unclenches like a fist, opening to receive a gift. Your belly rises and falls in the ancient rhythm that connects you to all breathing beings. In this deepening stillness, you begin to touch the mystery of non-attachment. Not indifference, but a love so vast it needs not possess. Like the sun that shines equally on flower and weed, on saint and sinner, your awareness begins to embrace all experience without preference, without the exhausting need to push away pain or grasp after pleasure got notice. How awareness itself has no weight, no color, no boundaries. It is the invisible presence that knows every sensation, every emotion, every thought, yet remains untouched by any of them. Like a mirror that reflects all things but is changed by none, is pure awareness is your deepest nature, the one who has been watching through your eyes since the very first moment you opened them as a child. The ancient Vedic seers called this witness consciousness Sakshi, the one who sees but cannot be seen, who knows but cannot be known as an object. In Zen, they speak of the original face, the one you had before your parents were born. In the heart of Buddhism, it is called Rigpa, the clear light of awareness that shines even in the deepest sleep. Can you feel it now? Not think about it, but feel it directly. This spacious presence that is reading these words, that is aware of awareness itself. It has no agenda, no history, no future to worry about. It simply is, as naturally as space allows all things to exist within it, as effortlessly as silence allows all sounds to arise and pass away. This is meditation not as a practice, but as a homecoming. Not as something you do, but as what you are. In this recognition, effort ceases, striving ends. You discover what the mystics have always known, that what you have been seeking has been here all along, closer than your breath, more intimate than your heartbeat, as present as the awareness that knows you are aware. Rest here now in this recognition. Let it hold you as the ocean holds waves, as the sky holds clouds, as the heart of Buddha holds all beings in its infinite compassion. You are home got in the ancient temples of wisdom. There are stories that sparkle like hidden gems, riddles that unlock not through thinking, but through a sudden shift of perspective, like turning a kaleidoscope and discovering an entirely new pattern. Has been there all along. The Master Jashu was once asked by a student, "Does a dog have Buddha nature?" His famous reply, "Moo," or "no," seems to contradict the fundamental Buddhist teaching that all beings possess enlightened essence. But hidden within this apparent contradiction lies a teaching more profound than philosophy, the realization that Buddha nature cannot be possessed, because it is not a thing, but the very ground of being itself. The question dissolves not in the answer, but in the recognition that the one asking already embodies what is sought. There is a story rarely told of the monk who answered every question with silence. Students would come from distant monasteries to test his wisdom with complex koans, intricate philosophical puzzles, desperate personal dilemmas. He would listen with complete attention, his eyes soft as morning mist, and then simply bow deeply before walking away. At first, seekers left frustrated, feeling mocked or dismissed. But gradually, word spread that those who spent time in his presence found their urgent questions slowly dissolving, not into answers, but into a peace that required no understanding. One day, a master from another temple arrived to challenge this. "Silent monk, I have come to debate the deepest dharma," he announced loudly. "Will you not speak even to me?" The silent monk smiled, gestured toward a cushion, and the two sat facing each other as the sun traced its arc across the sky. Hours passed in perfect stillness. As evening approached, the visiting master bowed deeply and whispered, "You have taught me more in silence than I learned in 30 years of words." The silent monk simply nodded, and in that nod was the entire Buddhist canon, complete and perfect. In Tibet, there is a teaching called the crazy wisdom tradition, where enlightened masters sometimes act in ways that confound conventional understanding. The great Drukpa Kunli would visit markets drunk on divine bliss, singing outrageous songs that made proper people blush while secretly transmitting profound spiritual insights. His point was not to scandalize, but to show that awakening cannot be contained in the boxes of expectation, that Buddha nature manifests through every authentic expression of human experience. The Sufi poet Hafez wrote, "I wish I could show you, when you are lonely or in darkness, the astonishing light of your own being. This is the ultimate hidden truth, not hidden because it is secret, but because it is so obvious we overlook it, like searching for glasses while wearing them. The treasure you seek is the one who is seeking. The peace you long for is the awareness that longs. The love you crave is the heart that craves." The Buddha's first words after his awakening were not teachings but an expression of wonder. How amazing! All beings are enlightened, but they don't know it. This is both the cosmic joke and the ultimate compassion, that what we exhaust ourselves pursuing is already fully present. Like the musk deer that searches the world for the source of a beautiful fragrance, not knowing it comes from within its own being. In Zen, they tell of the master who kept a single flower on his altar, not a perfect bloom, but one that was clearly dying, its petals brown at the edges, its stem beginning to bend. When asked why he didn't replace it with a fresh flower, he replied, "This one is more honest. It shows you what is true of everything, without pretense. Its impermanence is not a flaw, but its greatest teaching." Tonight, as you rest in these gentle mysteries, remember that you too are both the flower in full bloom and the flower returning to earth, both the question and the answer, both the seeker and the sought. In this paradox lies not confusion, but the deepest peace, the recognition that existence itself is the ultimate koan, and your very being is its perfect resolution. In the mountains of ancient Japan, where cherry blossoms bloom for just a few precious weeks each year, there flows a river that the locals call the teacher, not because it speaks in words, but because its constant song carries within it all the wisdom anyone could ever need. About the art of letting go, this river begins. High in the snow-capped peaks, born from the melting of winter's accumulation. As it descends, it encounters boulders that seem immovable, fallen trees that block its path, narrow gorges that appear to offer no passage. Yet the river never fights, never struggles, never insists that the way should be different than it is. It simply flows around under, through finding the path of least resistance, while maintaining its essential nature, always moving toward the vast ocean that calls it home. Watch how the river meets a massive stone in its path. Does it crash against it in fury? Does it demand the stone move aside? No, it embraces the obstacle with liquid arms, caressing its surfaces, slowly and patiently revealing new pathways that were always there, but hidden from view. Over time, the gentlest water shapes the hardest stone, not through violence, but through persistent, loving contact. This is the teaching of Wu Wei, effortless action, the way of moving through life without the exhausting friction of constant resistance. Like the river, you too can learn to flow around the obstacles in your path, the difficult person at work, the chronic pain in your body, the anxiety that visits in the early morning hours, the grief that follows its own mysterious timeline. What would it mean to embrace these challenges as the river embraces the stone? Not with passive resignation, but with active acceptance, recognizing that resistance creates suffering, while flowing creates freedom. The river that fights its banks creates turbulence and erosion. The river that accepts its boundaries becomes deep and peaceful, capable of reflecting the sky in your own life. Notice where you are pushing against what is. Where are you insisting that reality be different than it currently presents itself? Feel into those places now, with the gentleness of water touching stone. What happens when you soften your resistance just a little? What possibilities emerge? When you stop demanding that the river of your experience flow uphill? The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering, but this doesn't mean we must become indifferent to life. The river is not indifferent to its destination. It moves always toward the sea. But it doesn't waste energy fighting the landscape through which it flows. It loves what it encounters, while releasing its need to control the encounter. Think of your own attachments now, not to judge them, but to understand them with compassion. The attachment to being right, to being loved, to being secure, to being understood. These are natural human longings, as natural as the river's longing for the sea. But suffering arises when we demand that these longings be satisfied on our timeline in our preferred way by particular people or circumstances. What if, like the river, you could hold your desires lightly, flowing toward what calls you while remaining open to whatever landscape you encounter along the way? This is the practice of letting go, not a single dramatic release, but a moment-by-moment softening, a continuous return to flow. As you drift toward sleep tonight, imagine yourself as this river, carrying within your depths all that you have. Experience the joys and sorrows, the victories and defeats, the loves and losses. Nothing is rejected, nothing is clung to. All experiences are held in the vast embrace of your flowing awareness, each one changing you slightly while being transformed by your presence in return. Let your breath become the rhythm of this flow. Let your heartbeat be the gentle percussion of water over stones. Let your dreams be the shimmering reflections of stars on the surface of your being. You are the river, always moving, always changing, always home in the present moment, always flowing toward the infinite ocean of peace. Asterisk, asterisk, high above the river's flowing song, where the air grows thin and the sky seems close enough to touch, stands the mountain ancient, patient, unmoved by the seasons that dance around its base. If the river teaches us the wisdom of flowing, the mountain offers the equally profound teaching of stillness, of being so deeply rooted in one's essence that the storms of existence cannot shake one's fundamental peace. The mountain has witnessed countless generations of humans come and go, has felt the footsteps of seekers, climbing its slopes in search of something they believed existed only at the peak. Pilgrims arrive breathless, driven by the conviction that enlightenment waits in high places, that spiritual truth requires great effort and dramatic ascension. Yet the mountain knows what these seekers will eventually discover, that what they seek has been present at every step of the journey. In every breath drawn along the way, Zen Master Dogen wrote, "Mountains and rivers at this moment are the actualization of the ancient Buddha's word. Each, abiding in its phenomenal expression, realizes completeness. The mountain doesn't strive to be mountain-like. It simply is mountain, completely and without question. It doesn't compare itself to other mountains, doesn't worry about whether it's tall enough or beautiful enough or impressive enough to others. It rests in its own nature with absolute confidence. This is the teaching of just sitting, Shikan Taza, the practice of being completely present without agenda, without trying to achieve any particular state or experience. Like the mountain that simply exists without justification, you too can learn to rest in your own being without the constant need to improve, fix, or perfect yourself. Feel into this now, this possibility of complete acceptance of what you are in this moment. Not the story of who you were yesterday or who you might become tomorrow, but the simple fact of your existence right now. The mountain doesn't apologize for taking up space. It doesn't shrink itself to make others more comfortable. It stands in its full majesty, offering itself as shelter, as inspiration, as a reference point for all who need to remember what steadiness looks like. Your body, as you rest now, can learn from the mountain's example. Feel how the earth supports you without effort, how gravity holds you in its invisible embrace. You don't have to work to keep yourself from floating away. You can trust the fundamental forces that maintain your connection to this world. Let your bones settle like ancient stone. Let your muscles soften like soil after rain. The mountain experiences all weather equally, summer sun and winter snow, gentle rains and fierce storms, the golden light of dawn and the deep darkness of night. None of these conditions change the mountain's essential nature. It receives all weather with the same patient presence, neither resisting the harsh nor grasping after the pleasant dot in your own inner weather, the storms of emotion, the seasons of mood, the changing climate of thought and feeling. You can cultivate this mountain-like stability. When anxiety arises like sudden storm clouds, you don't have to become the anxiety. When sadness falls like gentle rain, you don't have to become the sadness. When joy blazes like summer sun, you don't have to cling to the joy. You can be the mountain that experiences all, whether while remaining essentially unchanged. This is not numbness or disconnection. The mountain feels every drop of rain, every gust of wind, every footstep of every creature that crosses its slopes. But it feels these things from the perspective of vastness, from the stability of something rooted so deeply that surface conditions cannot disturb its fundamental peace. Practice this now. Let your awareness become mountain-like. Notice thoughts and sensations arising like weather patterns across the landscape of your consciousness. Watch them come and go without feeling the need to change them or fix them or make them different. Simply be the stable, spacious awareness in which all experience unfolds. The ancient Chinese had a saying, "The pine teaches silence, the rock teaches stillness, but the mountain teaches both." In the quiet depths of your being, you too contain this mountain wisdom, the capacity to remain centered and peaceful regardless of external circumstances, rooted in a sense of self that is deeper than any temporary condition. Rest in this mountain. Nature now. Let it hold you as you drift towards sleep, offering its ancient stability as a foundation for your dreams. You are held by something vast and patient and enduring, something that has weathered every storm and will continue, long after your worries have dissolved like morning mist in the warming sundot in the heart of Kyoto, hidden behind walls worn smooth by centuries of rain and snow, lies a garden that few have ever seen. It is not famous like the rock gardens that draw pilgrims from across the world, nor is it marked on any map. Local people call it simply the Garden of No One, though they themselves cannot say exactly why this name arose or what it means. Garden was created by a monk whose own name has been forgotten, a teacher who spent his final years cultivating not flowers or vegetables, but something far more mysterious, the direct experience of what the Buddha called anatta, the truth of no self. This is perhaps the most challenging of all Buddhist teachings, the recognition that what we take to be our solid, continuous identity is actually more like a river than a rock, more like a symphony than a single note. Walk with me now into this sacred space where every element has been arranged to whisper the same profound secret. There is no one home in the house of self. Yet somehow, life continues with perfect intelligence, perfect responsiveness, perfect love. The garden is simultaneously empty and full, like the famous Heart Sutra's teaching that form is emptiness. Emptiness is formed. At the garden's center grows a tree that appears to be many trees woven together, bamboo and cherry, pine and maple, each species maintaining its distinct nature while sharing the same root system. The forgotten monk planted it this way to demonstrate how what we call self is actually a collaboration of countless elements, body and mind, breath and blood, memory and sensation, all arising interdependently, none able to exist in isolation. Asterisk, asterisk. Consider your own sense of I in this moment. Where exactly does it reside? Is it in your thoughts? But thoughts arise and pass away like clouds, and you remain to witness their coming and going. Is it in your body? But every cell in your body replaces itself over time, and the matter that comprises you now was once part of stars, plants, other beings. Is it in your memories? But memories shift and fade, and you exist fully even when you cannot remember what you had for breakfast yesterday. The harder you look for this solid self, the more it seems to dissolve under investigation, like trying to catch your reflection in moving water. Yet this dissolution brings not terror, but tremendous relief, like setting down a heavy backpack you didn't realize you were carrying. For if there is no solid self to protect, to improve, to worry about, then what burden remains? In one corner of the garden stands a weathered stone basin, always full of fresh water despite having no visible source. The water seems to flow from nowhere and empty into nowhere, a perfect metaphor for consciousness itself, always present, always changing, never able to be grasped or owned. Visitors often ask how the basin fills itself, but the real question it poses is more profound. How does awareness aware itself? How does knowing know itself knowing? The path through the garden is made of stepping stones, each one slightly different in size and shape, requiring you to adjust your balance with every step. There is no way to walk through the garden on autopilot. Each moment demands fresh attention, new responsiveness. This is the dance of no self, not a vacant emptiness, but a dynamic openness that meets each moment without the interference of a fixed identity trying to control the experience. Near the garden's far wall grows a patch of forget-me-nots, their tiny blue faces turning always toward the light. But these flowers seem to whisper a different message. Forget me. Forget the one who thinks she needs remembering. Forget the story of who you think you are and discover who you actually are in this moment before the story begins. As you rest in this teaching now, notice how liberating it can be to release the exhausting project of maintaining a consistent self-image. You don't have to be the same person you were an hour ago. Don't have to fulfill the expectations that yesterday's version of you created. Like the garden that allows each season to transform it completely while remaining essentially itself, you can allow life to flow through you without the resistance of a rigid identity. The Buddha compared the self to a chariot, pointing out that, while we use the word chariot, there is actually no thing that is chariot apart from wheels, axle, body, and pole arranged in a particular way. Remove any essential part, and the chariot ceases to exist, yet we cannot point to any single part and say, this is the chariot. So too with the self, a useful convention, a convenient designation, but not an ultimate reality. In the deepest corner of the garden, where shadows gather even at midday, there is a simple wooden bench worn smooth by countless unknown visitors. Sitting there, you might notice that the question, who am I, slowly transforms into the recognition, I am who-ing, and finally dissolves entirely into the pure experiencing that requires no experiencer, the loving that needs no lover, the awareness that is aware of being aware without anyone there to claim ownership of the awareness. This is the garden's final gift. The recognition that what you have been seeking, peace, love, fulfillment, enlightenment, was never something to be attained by someone, but rather the natural radiance of life when the illusion of separation dissolves like morning mist in the first rays of sun. You are not in the garden. You are the garden gardening itself. You are not having this experience. You are this experience experiencing itself. Rest now in this knowing that knows itself without a knower. This peace that needs no one to be peaceful. This love that loves itself into existence moment by moment by moment. Asterisk, asterisk, beyond the mountain, beyond the river, beyond even the mysterious garden where self dissolves into pure experiencing, lies the ocean vast, ancient, embracing all rivers, reflecting all skies, the ultimate metaphor for the boundless compassion that is both the path and the destination of all spiritual seeking. The Buddha spoke of metta, loving kindness, as the natural fragrance of an awakened heart. But this is not sentiment or emotion, as we usually understand these things. It is more like the ocean's fundamental nature, to receive all streams without discrimination, to support all life without preference, to remain essentially unchanged while being in constant motion, Imagine yourself now at the shore of this ocean of compassion, your feet sinking slightly into sand that has been pulverized by countless waves over countless ages. Each grain was once part of a mighty mountain, but the ocean's patient love has worn away all hardness, all sharp edges, until only softness remains. This is what compassion does to the heart. It gradually wears away our defensive edges, our judgmental hardness, until only tenderness remains. The waves that wash against the shore carry within them the tears of all beings, tears of joy and sorrow, of recognition and loss, of love given and love withheld. The ocean accepts them all equally, transforming salt water into salt water, tears into the vast embrace that holds everything. Your own tears, shed in moments of heartbreak or overwhelming beauty, have found their way here too, adding their small but precious contribution to this infinite reservoir of compassion. In the Buddhist tradition, we speak of the Bodhisattva, thou the promise to work for the liberation of all beings before seeking our own final rest. But as you stand at the edge of this compassionate ocean, you begin to understand that this vow is not a burden to be carried, but a recognition of what is already true. There is no real separation between your liberation and the liberation of all life. Like waves arising from the same ocean, all beings share the same essential nature, the same Buddha heart, the same longing for peace. Feel how the ocean's rhythm matches your own breath in and out, expanding and contracting, always in motion, yet always at rest. This is the breathing of universal compassion, the lungs of the cosmos itself, taking in all suffering and breathing out healing, taking in all fear and breathing out love. You are not separate from this breathing. You are one of the ways the ocean breathes itself. The moon above casts a silver path across the water, a bridge of light that seems to invite you to walk directly into the infinite. In many traditions, the moon represents the awakened mind, always full, even when it appears partial, always present, even when obscured by clouds. The ocean receives this moonlight without trying to possess it, allowing the silver path to dance and shimmer without grasping after its beauty. This is how the heart practices compassion, receiving all beings with the same open radiance, allowing their beauty and their pain to move through you without trying to fix or change or own their experience. Like moonlight on water, compassion illuminates without burning, touches without grasping, loves without conditions. Wading deeper now into these healing waters, you feel the ocean's temperature match your body's warmth, neither too hot nor too cold, perfectly attuned to your needs without your having to ask. This is the nature of true compassion. It knows what is needed without being told, responds without being requested, heals without being instructed how to heal. As the water rises to your waist, your chest, your shoulders, you discover that you are not drowning but being held, supported by something far more reliable than your own effort. This ocean of compassion has been supporting you all your life, though you may have forgotten, may have believed you were swimming alone in dangerous waters. Now you remember, you have always been held, always been loved, always been safe in the arms of something infinite. The great Tibetan teacher Shantideva wrote, "All the joy the world contains has come through wishing happiness for others. All the misery the world contains has come through wanting pleasure for oneself." But floating now in this ocean of boundless love, you understand that the distinction between self and other is itself an illusion. When the wave recognizes itself as ocean, how can it be concerned only with its own small movement? How can it not wish for the health and happiness of all waves? Let yourself sink deeper now into this recognition, deeper than thought, deeper than feeling, into the wordless knowing that you are both wave and ocean, both the lover and the beloved, both the compassion being offered and the being receiving compassion. There is no one here to be enlightened and no one here to be saved, Only this vast love loving itself in countless forms. Only this infinite tenderness being tender to itself through every encounter, every relationship, every moment of connection. As you drift in these sacred waters, supported completely, breathed by the breath of the universe itself, feel your heart expanding to match the ocean's vastness. There is room here for everything. All your mistakes and all your victories. All your fears and all your hopes. All your loneliness and all your love. Nothing is excluded from this embrace. Nothing is too small or too large, too ordinary, or too profound. This is the ocean that calls every river home. The compassion that embraces all seeking. The love that needs no reason and knows no limit. Rest here now, held by waters that have held everything that has ever lived, rocked by waves that whisper the ancient lullaby of universal belonging. Asterisk, asterisk, above the ocean of compassion, beyond the reach of earthly concerns, stretches the infinite. Canvas of night sky, where countless stars shine with the ancient light of distant suns. Each star appears separate, a solitary beacon in the darkness. Yet astronomers tell us that all stars are born from the same cosmic dust, all connected by invisible threads of gravity and light, all participating in the same vast dance of expansion and creation. This star-filled sky offers perhaps the most profound teaching of all Buddhist wisdom, Praditya Sambuddha, the truth of interdependent origination, the recognition that nothing exists in isolation, that every phenomenon arises only in relationship to everything else. Like the stars that seem distant but share the same origin, all beings, all experiences, all moments of existence arise together in an intricate web of mutual causation. Lying on your back now, gazing up at this celestial mandala, feel yourself as part of this cosmic story. The calcium in your bones was forged in the heart of an ancient star that lived and died billions of years ago. The iron in your blood carries the memory of stellar collapse and rebirth. You are literally made of star stuff, as the astronomer Carl Sagan reminded us, not metaphorically, but factually, scientifically, undeniably. But the teaching of interdependence goes deeper than shared physical origins. Consider this moment of listening, this experience of peace settling into your body and mind. This moment could not exist without the trees that produce the oxygen you breathe, without the farmers who grew the food that sustains your body, without the countless generations of teachers who preserved these wisdom teachings, without the love of your parents and grandparents stretching back through time. Look more closely at any single star, and you discover that its light depends on the darkness to be visible, just as the darkness depends on the stars to give it meaning. Neither exists independently. Both arise together in mutual definition. This is the profound truth the Buddha realized under the Bodhi tree, that self and other, inside and outside, suffering and peace, ignorance and wisdom all arise together, none possessing independent existence. The constellation patterns that humans have traced across the sky, the great bear, the hunter, the swan exist only because of our perspective from Earth. From another planet, the same stars would form. Entirely different patterns tell entirely different stories. This teaches us something beautiful about the nature of meaning itself. It arises from relationship, from the particular way awareness meets experience at each unique moment. Your own identity, the story of who you are and how you came to be lying. Here in this moment of peaceful listening is like one of these constellations, a meaningful pattern that emerges from the intersection of countless causes and conditions. Your parents meeting at just the right moment, their parents before them, the teachers who shaped your understanding, the experiences that opened your heart, the sorrows that deepened your compassion. Change any single element in this vast web of connection, and you would be someone entirely different, or perhaps would never have existed at all. This is not cause for anxiety, but for profound wonder. How miraculous that all these threads have woven together to create this moment. This awareness, this capacity to recognize the beauty of interdependence itself. The ancient Chinese spoke of the 10,000 things, their poetic way of referring to all phenomena, all the countless forms that existence takes. But they understood that these 10,000 things are not separate items scattered across the universe like coins on a table. They are more like waves on the ocean, each unique, each temporary, each utterly dependent on the whole for its existence. Feel now how your breath connects you to all breathing beings, the trees exhaling oxygen as you inhale, the microscopic organisms in the soil processing nutrients that feed the plants, that feed the animals that feed you. Your single breath participates in the planetary breathing, the great circulation of life that has continued unbroken for billions of years. Your heartbeat joins the rhythm of all hearts, the tiny rapid flutter of hummingbird hearts, the slow steady pulse of whale hearts, the collective heartbeat of humanity that continues day and night across all time zones in every corner of the earth. In this moment, millions of hearts are beating together with yours, keeping time for the cosmic dance. Even your thoughts and emotions arise interdependently. The peace you feel now emerges from the meeting of these words, your attention, the quietness of this moment, the accumulation of wisdom from countless sources. The love in your heart has been kindled by all the love you have received and given, stretching back through time, connecting you to every being who has ever loved or been loved. This is why the Bodhisattva vow to save all beings is not altruism, but wisdom, the recognition that your own liberation and the liberation of all life are inseparable, like the front and back of a single sheet of paper. When you truly understand interdependence, the question is not whether to help others, but how to most skillfully participate in the healing that life is always offering itself. Under this canopy of stars, each one a sun to worlds we cannot imagine. Feel yourself as both infinitely small and cosmically significant. Small because you are just one temporary form in an endless universe. Significant because this entire universe would be incomplete without your unique perspective, your particular way of experiencing and expressing the mystery of existence. The stars that shine above you tonight are also shining on people around the world who are also seeking peace, also wondering about their place in the great web of life. Somewhere, someone is looking at these same stars while holding a newborn baby. Somewhere, someone is making their final peace with life while gazing at this same moon. Somewhere, someone is falling in love or creating art or discovering a truth that will change their life forever. You are connected to all of them, part of the same vast story, the same cosmic awakening, the same movement toward understanding and compassion. Under these ancient stars, in this moment that will never come again, you are exactly where you belong, exactly who you need to be, exactly as interconnected with all life as the stars are interconnected with the infinite darkness that gives them meaning. Asterisk, asterisk, in the deepest meditation halls of ancient monasteries, where centuries of prayer have worn smooth the wooden floors and countless breaths have blessed the air, there exists a teaching that cannot be spoken, a wisdom that lives not in words, but in the spaces between words, not in sound, but in the silence that gives all sound its meaning. This is the teaching of the pause, the gap, the sacred emptiness, that the Tibetans call bardo, the space between thoughts, the moment between breaths, the eternal now that exists in the interval between past and future. It is here, in this pregnant silence, that all the deepest truths reside, waiting not to be learned, but to be recognized, not to be achieved, but to be discovered is what has always been present. Listen now to the silence that surrounds these words, the quiet spaces that allow each phrase to emerge and be heard. Without this silence, there would be only noise, an unbroken stream of sound that could carry no meaning, no message, no music. The silence is not the absence of something. It is the presence of everything, the fertile void from which all expression arises and to which all expression returns. In music, the masters know that the rests are as important as the notes, that the pauses create the rhythm, that the silence between phrases allows the melody to breathe. Beethoven's most profound effects often come not from the notes he wrote, but from the silences he placed between them, spaces that speak more eloquently than any sound could speak. The same is true of the music of your own existence. Between each thought, there is a moment of pure awareness. Between each breath, there is a pause of perfect stillness. Between each heartbeat, there is an instant of infinite spaciousness. These gaps, these sacred intervals, are not empty pauses in your life, but the very ground from which your life emerges. In Zen, they speak of Ma, the pregnant pause, the space that is full of potential. A traditional Japanese room achieves its beauty not from what it contains, but from what it leaves empty, not from decoration, but from the spaces that allow the mind to rest, the eye to find peace, the heart to expand into openness. Feel now into the gaps in your own experience. Notice the moment between the end of one breath and the beginning of the next. In that tiny pause lives an eternity of possibility, a moment where you're neither inhaling nor exhaling, but simply being, suspended in the space where all change happens, but change itself is not yet occurring. This is the secret laboratory of transformation, the workshop where old patterns dissolve and new ways of being are born. Not in the dramatic moments of obvious change, but in the quiet spaces between, the moments so subtle we usually miss them entirely. Yet it is here that free will lives, here that choice becomes possible, here that the future opens into genuine possibility rather than mere repetition of the past. The great spiritual teacher Krishnamurti often spoke of the importance of the interval, pointing out that insight doesn't come from thinking about problems, but from the gap between thoughts. A moment when the mind stops its constant activity and something fresh can emerge. He called it the space between the observer and the observed, the gap where separation dissolves and direct knowing becomes possible. In your own meditation, whether formal or simply this gentle attention you're bringing to this moment, notice how peace doesn't come from acquiring something new, but from recognizing what is already present in the gaps. Not from filling the silence with thoughts about peace, but from resting in the silence itself, discovering that silence is not empty, but pregnant with an intelligence that needs no words to express itself. The ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu wrote that we join spokes together in a wheel, but it is the center hole that makes the wagon move. We shape clay into a pot, but it is the emptiness inside that holds whatever we want. We hammer wood for a house, but it is the inner space that makes it livable. He was pointing to this same truth, that what appears to be nothing is actually the source of everything. Your own consciousness is like this, not a thing but a space, not an object, but the openness in which all objects appear, not a sound but the silence in which all sounds arise, not a thought but the awareness in which all thoughts come and go, like clouds in an empty sky. In the deepest teachings of Dzogchen, the great perfection tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, students are introduced directly to this natural awareness, this ordinary mind that needs no improvement, no cultivation, no special conditions to be perfectly awake. It is discovered not through effort, but through relaxation, not through doing, but through undoing, not through achieving, but through recognizing what has never been absent. Rest now in this recognition, this moment between moments where you are, neither coming nor going, neither becoming nor unbecoming, but simply aware of being aware. Let this silence hold you more intimately than any embrace, more surely than any promise, more completely than any understanding. This is the silence that spoke before your parents were born, that will remain after all words have been forgotten, that is speaking now in the space between these words, offering itself as the deepest teaching, the final refuge, the ultimate peace that needs no reason and knows no opposite. In this silence, you are whole. In this gap, you are complete. In this pause between the notes of existence, you remember what you have always been, the awareness in which all music plays, the space in which all stories unfold, the silence that gives meaning to every sound. Asterisk, asterisk, and. So, dear friend, we arrive at the gentle close of our journey together, like travelers who have walked through many landscapes and now find themselves at the threshold of rest. We have wandered through cherry blossom gardens, where petals drift like prayers, sat beside mountain rivers that teach the art of flowing, and stood in the shadow of ancient peaks that know the secret of stillness. We have explored the mysterious garden where the self dissolves into pure experiencing, floated in the ocean of boundless compassion, and gazed up at stars that remind us of our cosmic belonging. We have discovered the pregnant silence between all sounds, the sacred gaps where transformation quietly unfolds, the spaces where peace has always been waiting, patient as moonlight, constant as breath. Each teaching we have touched tonight, the wisdom of letting go, the strength of presence, the truth of interdependence, the recognition of our Buddha nature. These are not concepts to be understood, but invitations to be lived, not knowledge to be acquired, but remembrances of what you have always been. Like water finding its way back to water, like light recognizing light, you have been coming home to yourself throughout this gentle pilgrimage. The river still flows, carrying our small offerings of attention downstream toward the vast ocean that receives all seeking. The mountain still stands, unmoved by the weather of our thoughts and feelings, offering its ancient stability as a foundation for rest. The garden continues to bloom and fade and bloom again, teaching the endless dance of form and emptiness that is the nature of all existence. In Zen temples across the world, as midnight approaches, the evening drum sounds 3 times, once for all beings in the past who have sought this same peace, once for all beings in the present who share this moment of awakening, and once for all beings in the future who will discover what we have touched tonight. You are part of this great lineage of seekers, this Sangha that stretches across time and space, connected by the simple longing for truth, for peace, for the end of separation. The teachings of the Buddha, like golden threads woven through the fabric of our journey tonight, remind us that suffering is optional, that peace is our birthright, that what we seek is not distant, but intimately present. The 4 noble truths echo in the sound of your breathing: the recognition of dissatisfaction, the understanding of its cause, the possibility of its cessation, and the path that leads to freedom. The Eightfold Path unfolds naturally when we stop forcing and start following, like a river that finds the ocean without consulting maps, like a flower that turns toward light without effort or strain. Right understanding flowers when we stop trying to figure everything out. Right intention emerges when we align with the heart's deepest knowing. Right speech, right action, right livelihood arise spontaneously from right awareness. Like fruit ripening on a tree that has forgotten it is trying to bear fruit. As you settle now into the approaching embrace of sleep, carry with you the fragrance of these teachings, not as burden to remember, but as blessing to embody. Let your dreams be gardens where wisdom flowers without effort. Let your rest be the ocean that holds all experiences in its vast embrace. Let your breathing be the mountains, teaching of stability, and your heartbeat the river's lesson in flowing. You need not try to hold on to what we have shared tonight. Like morning mist that nourishes the earth by dissolving into it, these teachings will find their way into your being through simple trust, simple openness, simple willingness to let them work their gentle alchemy beneath the surface of consciousness. In the great mandala of existence, you are exactly where you belong, playing precisely the role that only you can play in the vast symphony of awakening. Your struggles and your victories, your questions and your moments of clarity, your loneliness and your love, all of it is sacred. All of it is Buddha nature expressing itself. All of it is the Dharma teaching itself through the unique instrument of your life. The ancient blessing of the Buddha follows you into sleep. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings be at peace. But tonight, let this blessing begin with you, for you cannot offer to others what you have not first given to yourself, and you cannot give to yourself what you do not recognize. You already are. Thank you, gentle soul, for sharing this quiet path with me tonight, for bringing your presence to these words, for allowing your heart to be touched by the same truths that have guided seekers for countless generations. In receiving these teachings, you have also given them, for wisdom only lives when it flows from heart to heart, from silence to silence, from one moment of recognition to another, wherever you rest your head tonight in familiar surroundings, or strange places, in comfort or in difficulty, in solitude or in company, may peace find you as naturally as sleep finds the weary traveler. May the Dharma light your dreams with gentle radiance. May you wake tomorrow a little more free, a little more kind, a little more at home in the mystery of your own being. The last temple bell is sounding now across the valley of night, its bronze voice carrying on the evening air the same message it has carried for 1,000 years. You are not alone. You are deeply loved. You are already whole. The sound fades into silence, but the truth it proclaims continues, echoing in the chambers of your heart, reverberating in the depths of your being. And so we part as all true meetings part, not with goodbye, but with gratitude, not with ending, but with beginning, not with separation, but with the recognition that what has brought us together tonight can never be divided, for it is the very ground of all meeting, the source of all seeking, the home to which all paths return. Sleep well, dear friend. Sleep in the Buddha's embrace. Sleep in the Dharma's protection. Sleep in the Sangha's blessing. Good night and be well.